Being left out of a group chat hurts in a way that's embarrassingly hard to explain, and neuroscience says you're not being dramatic because your brain literally cannot tell the difference between that and a broken bone. Most people spend their whole lives apologizing for how much social pain affects them, not realizing the people who understand this mechanism have already stopped fighting it and started using it. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your brain was designed to treat rejection as a crisis, and what that means for every time you've ever felt passed over, left out, or quietly dropped. A 2003 study out of UCLA gave us the first real brain scan evidence, and what the researchers found stopped them cold. That UCLA study, led by psychologist Naomi Eisenberger, put participants through a simple social rejection scenario while their brains were being scanned inside an fMRI machine. And the result was jaw-dropping. The region that lit up during social exclusion was the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. That is the exact same region that processes the distress of physical pain. Not a nearby region, not a similar one, the same one. Think about what that means. When someone is passed over for a promotion after 2 years of extra work, or when a friend group quietly stops including them, their brain is running the same alarm code as if they touched a hot stove. The signal is identical. This is why you can't just shake it off. You're not being weak. You're being human in the most literal neurological sense. But the question that follows is the one that changes everything. Why? Why would a brain ever wire social pain and physical pain together? The answer starts with a game so simple it barely sounds like science. Researchers designed a virtual ball-tossing game called Cyberball. Participants were told they were playing online with 2 other real people. At some point, the other players just stopped throwing the ball to them. That's it. That's the whole rejection. No words, no confrontation, just being quietly excluded from a game that didn't even matter. And participants reported real emotional distress, not mild annoyance, distress. Some described it as genuinely upsetting. Here's the part that makes it stranger. When researchers told participants beforehand that the other players were computers, not real people, the pain response barely changed. The brain didn't care that the exclusion was fake. It still registered as a threat. This is the part most people miss. Your brain's social alarm system doesn't require a real relationship to go off. It fires on cues alone. And understanding why it was built that way reveals something much darker about how we're wired. For most of human history, being excluded from your group wasn't embarrassing. It was a death sentence. No tribe meant no food, no shelter, no protection from predators. A human alone on the savannah 50,000 years ago had maybe days to live. So the brains that survived were the ones that treated social rejection as an emergency, the same category of emergency as a predator or a wound. Natural selection didn't build you to be casual about belonging. It built you to be obsessed with it. The brains that didn't panic when rejected got left behind, sometimes literally. The ones that felt real, physical-grade distress at the first sign of social exclusion, they ran back to the group, they repaired relationships, they did what it took to stay connected. And they're the ones whose descendants are sitting here watching this. Stay with me, because this evolutionary logic explains something that almost no one talks about, why modern rejection hits so much harder than it should. Modern rejection hits harder because the threat detection system your brain is running was calibrated for a world that no longer exists. When you're passed over for a promotion, your dorsal anterior cingulate cortex doesn't check the calendar. It doesn't know it's not the savannah. It reads one thing. You were evaluated and found insufficient by people whose approval mattered to you, and it pulls the same emergency lever. Psychologist Mark Leary calls this system the socio-internal gauge that constantly monitors how much social value you appear to hold in the eyes of others. When that gauge drops, the brain doesn't just note it, it sounds an alarm. And here's where it gets interesting. The sociometer doesn't care if the evaluation was fair or rational or even based on real information about you. A random stranger ignoring you in an elevator can nudge the needle. Being the only person in a meeting who didn't get a direct question, same thing. The system runs continuously, quietly, in the background of almost every social moment you have, and most people have no idea it's happening. Now here is the thing the intro promised. the thing that reframes everything. In 2010, researchers ran a remarkable study. They gave participants Tylenol, ordinary acetaminophen, the stuff people take for headaches, every day for 3 weeks. The other group got a placebo. At the end of the study, the Tylenol group reported significantly lower levels of social pain, hurt feelings, feelings of rejection, social distress, measurably reduced by a painkiller, a physical painkiller. Let that land. The overlap between social and physical pain isn't just a metaphor for how bad rejection feels. It is a shared biological system, the same neurochemical pathways. Naomi Eisenberger, whose lab ran the original fMRI study, said it plainly. Social pain and physical pain share a neural substrate. One system, two types of hurt. This means every time you've told yourself, I shouldn't feel this bad, it's just a social thing, you were wrong. You were treating a biological response like a character flaw, and that misunderstanding has consequences we're only beginning to measure. Children who get excluded at school are given support, validation, interventions. Adults who feel rejected at work are told to toughen up. And that gap is dangerous because the adult social world is full of invisible rejections that no one talks about. A mentor who stops responding to emails, a team that starts a side channel that doesn't include you, a friendship that quietly evaporates after a move. None of these come with a clear moment of rejection you can point to. They're ambiguous, slow. And ambiguous rejection is neurologically worse than clear rejection because the brain keeps running threat detection on an unresolved signal. It can't close the loop. It just keeps scanning. A 2013 study in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology found that uncertain rejection, situations where you don't know if you were rejected or just overlooked, produced greater distress than definitive exclusion. Your brain would rather know it was rejected than wonder, because uncertainty keeps the alarm on. And the adult world runs almost entirely on ambiguous social signals, which means most adults are walking around with their social alarm system misfiring constantly, and no framework for understanding why. This isn't just about feelings. Chronic social pain, the kind that builds up in people who feel persistently excluded or undervalued, has measurable effects on the body. Researcher John Cacioppo spent decades studying loneliness at the University of Chicago. His data showed that chronically lonely people had elevated levels of cortisol, disrupted sleep, faster cognitive decline, and a significantly higher risk of cardiovascular disease. The social pain system, when it stays activated for too long, starts to damage the physical system it was named after. Loneliness, in his words, is as dangerous to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. The brain treating rejection like pain isn't just a quirk of neuroscience. It's a design that was meant to be temporary, a brief alarm fixed quickly by social reconnection. When the alarm never turns off, the body starts to pay. And the people most at risk are often the ones who are best at hiding it, the ones who have learned to perform fine while the alarm runs underneath. Which raises the most practical question of all: what can you actually do with any of this? The first thing, and the most powerful, is reframing. Not toxic positivity, actual neurological reframing. When you know that your pain response to rejection is a biological alarm system doing its job, you stop treating it as evidence about your worth. The pain isn't telling you that you don't belong. It's telling you that your brain is working exactly as designed. Research from Ethan Cross at the University of Michigan found that people who used self-distancing language, talking to themselves in the third person during rejection, showed measurably lower emotional pain responses. Literally saying, "Why does this hurt Sarah?" instead of "Why does this hurt me?" creates cognitive distance from the alarm without suppressing it. The second thing is recognizing ambiguity for what it is. Most social pain in adult life isn't confirmed rejection. It's an unresolved signal that your brain is catastrophizing into rejection. Naming it as uncertainty, not rejection, actually dials down the threat response. And the third thing, and this is what Cacioppo's research ultimately pointed to, is that the quality of connection matters far more than the quantity. One relationship where you feel genuinely seen does more neurological work than 20 superficial ones. Your brain built this system to pull you toward real belonging. That's still what it's asking for. Your brain didn't develop a pain system for social rejection because you're fragile. It developed one because belonging kept you alive. Every time rejection stings more than you think it should, that's 50,000 years of survival code doing exactly what it was built to do. The science doesn't make the pain smaller, but it makes the shame around it disappear. And here's the final thought, the one most people never reach. The same neural wiring that makes rejection so painful is what makes genuine connection feel so good. The system works in both directions. You weren't built to avoid social pain. You were built to pursue what removes it. If this landed, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from.